Buffalo Sabres, John Regas, the corporate fraudster. If Spano was a small-time con man who got lucky, John Regas was something far more dangerous, a respected businessman who used his legitimate empire to fund a massive criminal enterprise. Regas founded Adelphia Communications, which grew to become one of America's largest cable companies. In 1997, he purchased the Buffalo Sabres, adding a prestigious sports franchise to his business portfolio. On the surface, Regas seemed like the perfect owner, a self-made billionaire with deep community ties and a passion for hockey. Behind the scenes, however, Regas and his sons were orchestrating what the SEC would later call one of the most extensive financial frauds ever to take place at a public company. They were using Adelphia as their personal piggy bank, stealing over $3 billion from shareholders. The Regas family's spending was obscene. They used company funds to build a private golf course. They purchased 17 company cars for personal use. They even spent $26 million of shareholder money to buy 3,600 acres of timberland just to expand their yard. And yes, they illegally funneled millions into the Buffalo Sabres, which was losing money at the time. The House of Cards collapsed in 2002 when the fraud was exposed. On the very day John Regas and his sons were arrested, the NHL immediately seized control of the Sabres. This quick action showed the league had learned something from the Spano debacle. When criminal owners are exposed, you don't wait around hoping things will get better. Regas was convicted of bank fraud, wire fraud, and securities fraud. At age 79, he was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. He served 9 years before being released due to declining health. The Sabres remained under NHL control until 2003, when businessman Tom Golisano purchased the team and stabilized the franchise. The Regas scandal was different from previous ownership crimes. This wasn't a gangster using hockey to launder money or a con man pulling a fast one. This was a systematic corporate fraud that used a hockey team as just one more asset in a criminal enterprise. It showed that even the most respected business leaders could be hiding dark secrets. Edmonton Oilers, Peter Pocklington, the asset hiding perjurer. Peter Pocklington was once the most hated man in Canada. As owner of the Edmonton Oilers, he committed the ultimate hockey sin, trading Wayne Gretzky to Los Angeles in 1988. Canadians were so outraged that one member of parliament demanded the government block the trade. But Pocklington's real crimes came years later. In the 1980s, Pocklington was on top of the world. His Oilers won 5 Stanley Cups with a dynasty led by Gretzky, Mark Messier, and Jari Kurri. But behind the championship banners, Pocklington's business empire was crumbling. He owned everything from meatpacking plants to car dealerships, and many were failing. The Gretzky trade wasn't just a hockey decision, it was a desperate move to get cash. By 2008, Pocklington was bankrupt, but instead of honestly disclosing his assets as required by law, he hid millions from creditors. He concealed assets in offshore accounts and lied under oath about his holdings. In 2010, he pleaded guilty to perjury for making false statements in his bankruptcy proceedings. Pocklington was sentenced to 6 months of home detention, 2 years of probation, and 100 hours of community service. He was also ordered to pay $3 million in restitution. The man who once owned the greatest hockey dynasty in modern history was now a convicted felon. What makes Pocklington's case particularly interesting is how it connects to the Gretzky trade. For years, Canadians suspected there was something fishy about the deal, that Pocklington was more concerned with cash than championships. His later financial crimes confirmed what many had long suspected. The Oilers dynasty was dismantled not for hockey reasons, but because its owner was desperately trying to shore up his failing business empire. Nashville Predators, William Boots Del Biagio, the fraudulent financier. William Boots Del Biagio. The third seemed like the perfect NHL owner. A successful venture capitalist from a wealthy San Jose family, he had the pedigree and connections to fit right in with the league's elite. In 2007, he purchased a 27% stake in the Nashville Predators, becoming one of the team's principal owners. There was just one problem. Del Biagio's wealth was built on fraud. To finance his purchase of the Predators, he forged financial documents and used other people's collateral without their knowledge. He created fake securities accounts showing he had over $100 million in assets, when, in reality, he had almost nothing. Del Biagio's scheme was particularly brazen. He actually took screenshots of other people's brokerage accounts, photoshopped his name onto them, and presented them to banks as his own. Based on these forgeries, he secured $110 million in loans, using $25 million to buy his stake in the Predators. The fraud collapsed in 2008 when one of his lenders discovered the deception. Del Biagio filed for bankruptcy, and federal prosecutors charged him with securities fraud. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 97 months in federal prison. The Del Biagio case is eerily similar to John Spano's fraud with the Islanders. Both men used forged documents to buy NHL teams they couldn't afford. Both were motivated by ego and the prestige of sports ownership, and both exposed serious flaws in the league's vetting process. But there's a key difference. Del Biagio's fraud occurred after the Spano scandal, when the NHL was supposedly more vigilant about checking potential owners' finances. The fact that he still managed to slip through suggests the league hadn't learned its lesson as well as it claimed. Minnesota Wild Jason Bo Beckman, the failed Ponzi schemer. Sometimes the system actually works. In 2008, a financial advisor named Jason Bo Beckman attempted to purchase a stake in the Minnesota Wild. Beckman presented himself as a successful money manager with substantial wealth. What the NHL didn't know, at least initially, was that Beckman was running a massive $194 million Ponzi scheme. He was planning to use money stolen from investors to buy his way into NHL ownership. This time, however, the league's improved vetting process caught the fraud. Joel Barth, an accountant hired specifically by the NHL to investigate Beckman's finances, discovered discrepancies in his financial disclosures. The league blocked the purchase, and Beckman was later convicted of wire fraud, mail fraud, and money laundering. He's currently serving a 30-year prison sentence. The Beckman case represents a rare win for the NHL's due diligence process. After the embarrassment of the Spano affair, the league had finally implemented proper financial vetting that could detect sophisticated fraud schemes. It showed that the NHL had learned from its mistakes and was now taking ownership integrity seriously. Ottawa Senators, Bruce Firestone, and the expansion bid controversy. Not all NHL ownership controversies involve criminal convictions, but some skirt the edges of legality in ways that threaten the integrity of the game. The Ottawa Senators' return to the NHL in the early 1990s is one such case. Bruce Firestone, a real estate developer, led the group that brought the Senators back to the NHL as an expansion team in 1992. To secure the franchise, Firestone needed to demonstrate that Ottawa had a viable arena plan. He proposed building a new arena in Kanata, on land his development company owned. The controversy erupted when it was revealed that Firestone had allegedly instructed his staff to lie to the Ontario Municipal Board about the arena's impact on local planning. According to reports, he told employees to hide the fact that the arena was intended for an NHL team, as this would affect zoning decisions and potentially increase the land's value. When these allegations became public, Firestone faced intense scrutiny. While he was never criminally charged, the scandal forced him to step back from the Senators' operations. By 1993, financial troubles led to Rod Brydon taking control of the team, and Firestone's ownership group was effectively pushed out. The Senators' case illustrates the gray area between criminal behavior and ethically questionable business practices. Firestone's alleged deception wasn't bank fraud or money laundering, but it raised serious questions about the integrity of the NHL's expansion process and the lengths to which prospective owners would go to secure a franchise. Danbury Trashers, James Galante, the mob-connected waste magnate. Criminal influence in hockey isn't limited to NHL ownership. Sometimes it seeps in through affiliated leagues and team personnel. Take the case of the Danbury Trashers, a minor league team in the United Hockey League. Owner James Galante was a reputed mob associate whose wealth came from his trash hauling company. Galante was eventually imprisoned on federal racketeering and tax fraud convictions, serving 6 years beginning in 2008. The UHL commissioner, Richard Brozal, actively fought against Galante's influence, suspending team staff members for dirty tricks and aggressive behavior. Brozal explicitly stated he needed to protect our image and our affiliation with the NHL, confirming that criminal connections at lower levels directly threaten the NHL's reputation.